How to generate $50,000 every single month in cash flow in 90 days from business acquisition. This is a completely crazy question that I was challenged with an acquisition lab member last week. And I wanted to take on the challenge and figure out where this was coming from. And I came up with a 5-step plan in order to achieve this ridiculous goal. My name is Walker Deibel. I am the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build, creator of the Acquisition Lab. When I had this member ask me this question, okay, hey Walker, I want to generate $50,000 a month in cash flow after principal and interest of any loan that I use to acquire the business, and I want to do it in 90 days. Okay, I know this member of the lab, and she has hundreds of real estate properties that are generating cash flow for her every month. So I needed to know more. I needed to know where this was coming from. It's a ridiculous, ambitious goal. And so I got her on the phone and I learned a couple of things. One, she's committed to not only building wealth in real estate but also in business acquisitions, which is why she joined Acquisition Lab 6 months ago. And she's really wanting to build this out. And I'm like, that's great, but like, come on. And she said, listen, I'm doing something called rapid transformation coaching. Now, look, I don't know anything about this, so I haven't looked it up or anything. All I know is what I got from her. So if you're in rapid transformation coaching, forgive me for my brutal description, but essentially, the concept is like, look, time isn't linear. Okay, I want you to will down like the root of the goal that you're trying to achieve, this 10-year goal, and then just think about what would need to be true to achieve that in 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, 90 days. Okay. And then, whittle away the 80% of the noise and just go completely direct at this goal. So, as a pretty driven individual myself, I relished in the description of this, and I was like, all right, let's just tackle this academically and figure out how we're going to do it. Okay. And I say academically because I want to be very clear. My business is so I've acquired 10 companies outright, really eight of them over the first 10 years. And those eight in total, generate between 250 and 300,000 in monthly cash flow. On average, but certainly not consistently every single month. Like there's standard deviation in that. So, this is really an academic exercise, but I love it. Okay, so here we go. The first thing that you need to do, 5-step process. First thing you need to do is target the right cash flow. Okay. And what I mean by that is, you need to understand if your cash flow is a target, then what you need to understand is what does a business look like that actually generates this kind of cash flow, right? And so $50,000 a month, okay, is equal to $600,000 a year in cash flow, okay? And but the thing is that $600,000, you're going to have to use some kind of debt in order to acquire the business, okay? And if you're not using debt and you want to pay cash, you should use some debt. That's what private equity does because it juices the returns. But that's a different video that I've done. But the concept here is that you've got 600,000 in seller's discretionary earnings, okay? Again, I've got videos on the difference between SDE, EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA. We're going with seller's discretionary earnings in this case, which means, what is the amount of, earnings that are generated by this black box, by the black box being the business, whoever is the owner operator of this business. Okay, that's your seller's discretionary earnings. So $600,000 a year. But she wanted me to figure out $50,000 in cash flow after principal and interest. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm just going to loosely double that. All right. So that would equal $1.2 million, okay, in SDE. Okay. So now we know what we're targeting. But the thing is that, how do I know what the revenue is on that? Because I can't target companies for sale with earnings necessarily. So if it's a higher margin business, SDE is typically, 10 to 20% of revenue. And so we can just multiply that by five in our brains and say, okay, about a $6 million, revenue company is going to be able to get that done. Maybe a little bit higher, assume 15% or, 17% SDE or whatever. I always like to target higher margin businesses anyway, because it's got less competition in their industry. And so it's one of these where if we're looking for a $1.2 million business, I'm just going to tell you, like, very loosely, the value of this business is going to come in around 6 million as well. Has nothing to do with revenue, everything to do with earnings. It's probably going to trade for between 4.5 times and maybe 5.5 times on the higher end. And it'll include some working capital. And so let's pretend that, we buy it for 4.8 and then there's closing costs and, we throw a little cash in there, we can easily get to 5x. So, 1.2 million times 5x is going to be 6 million purchase price. Okay. Again, lots of standard deviations, just trying to whittle through all the noise and get directional. Okay. So, we're looking for a business with, higher margins. We've got the right cash flow target. We kind of have a profile of what the revenue looks like. And, we know about what we're going to pay. Okay. Next is going to be industry and company. And what I mean by that is, the characteristics of the industry and the company that we would want to look for. Okay. So, number one, if we're truly trying to find, $50,000 a month every single month, recurring revenue is going to be key because it's going to eliminate the ups and downs of the cash flow cycle in any other business that maybe has inventory or any cyclicality or anything like that. This is why I've never achieved it personally, is because I've never acquired a business with truly recurring revenue. Repeat revenue, yes, but most of the companies I buy have all of these other things. And the truth is that the multiple and the valuation of a company with high margins and recurring revenue is going to be higher. So it probably wouldn't be here. Again, we're being directional, and I'm just telling you the things to be looking for, okay, if you're truly trying to hit this. Recurring revenue is often, industry specific, but also, company specific. And, you would want to look for industries that have that kind of model. Second would be something with strong demand. So in Buy Then Build, we talk about, the AE matrix defines the four different business acquisition opportunities between, eternally profitable platform business, high growth, and turnarounds, right? And so it's one of these where you want to make sure that there's strong demand for the product or service, and you want to find a defensible market position. Usually, the way that that's considered is, people will look for acquisition entrepreneurs will look for fragmented markets where there's lots of players and no big, industry dominator or few dominators, running it because it has a more defensible position and it eliminates, sort of geographic competition or these types of things, right? Um, finally, you want to, if you can, you want to find a business with room for operational improvement because as can increase the value of that company, as you can build your company, you're going to have more and more safety in terms of, building the business and, continuing to have that cash flow and also just paying down the debt and building up cash and all of the things that we want in business. Okay. So third is going to be, how are we going to finance this thing, right? And financing in this case, plenty of videos on the capital stack and all the rest of it. I'm not going to go deep here, but the point that I want to make is that a $6 million business acquisition is very achievable with just an SBA loan, right? I mean, you can get $5 million in an SBA backed loan from a bank, okay? And a lot of those banks will also increase. They'll throw another $1 million on top of it, if they like the deal, okay? So that's 6 million just in debt right there, right? That you can get. A lot of these companies a lot of these banks will require, 10 to 20% down, 5 to 20% down, depending on the structure. Please just assume it's 10%. Everybody wants you to have skin in the game. If you're trying to get it done in 90 days, you're not going to be able to have time to sort of maneuver through all these other, capital stack things that have you putting less skin in the game. Okay. So, I want you to succeed. Just go in planning on, 10% cash down. All right. So that would be round numbers, $600,000 that you need to come up with. Okay. Can you work it out with 300,000? Yes. But it's easier to get this done with 750,000 in cash than with 300,000 in cash. I'm just telling you the truth. Okay. So the thing is like we've got cash down, we've got an SBA finance. Now there is seller financing. Now I am not going to tell you to go out and try to find a business and just do like 90% or 100% seller financing. That's ridiculous. You will not succeed in 90 days. That's very few people want to give up the most valuable asset they have to someone with no skin in the game and a big seller note. Okay. Just forget all the social media headlines and get to the truth. Okay. You gotta have skin in the game. Now, we're gonna have some seller financing, and the bank will actually require it with a $6 million acquisition, which is nice for you because you don't have to tell a big story and why you need it. Okay, so let's assume $600,000 in seller financing will come from well, obviously the seller. That could come in the form of a seller note, an earnout, a forgivable seller note. Banks will require, seller financing, which is good for you as the buyer, right? And so the thing is like we can assume, $600,000 coming in some form of seller financing, whether that be, an equity roll, a seller loan, a forgivable loan, an earnout, something, okay? And so, that gets us down to about, 5.4. And then, once you're putting in your 600,000 or so, the rest will be an SBA loan. So you can see how this starts to come together. Now, what if I don't have, Walker, 600,000 or $1 million to put into this, right? Well, you can pull in private equity, whether that be, private investors, friends and family, an actual private equity firm that's, backing, searchers or whatever. It's an option. The challenge there is that you're starting to you're starting to reduce the odds that you're going to be able to make 50,000 a month because they're going to want something for their equity, right? And so if they're putting the equity in, they're going to be in a preferred position over you and often take about, 80% of the total equity of the company anyway. So, starting to get into private equity is a little slippery. And that's why, I started my career buying smaller companies and then, getting larger as time went on. So, those are that's the sources of how you're going to finance this thing. And, what I'm trying to tell you is the good news here is that an SBA loan is totally usable and approachable for a business transaction that we're trying to get to here. Okay. Fourth is how are we going to find this deal? Okay. And here's the big secret. Brokers. Okay. Now, whether they go by the name business broker, intermediary, M&A advisor, investment banker, I don't much care. But the thing is a lot of us, we sort of daydream about this like off-market deal. Okay. I'm going to tell you that this is a characteristic of real estate investing that has been borrowed and put into business acquisitions. And I'm going to tell you the asset class is different. And trying to find off-market deals is a lot harder, and every single business is unique and different. And the sellers put time, sweat, tears, it paid to put their kids through college, all the rest of it, and it's their source of cash flow, and it's the most valuable thing that they have. Okay, this isn't like someone who owns 10 multifamilies and all passively, and there's a property manager, and all of a sudden he's a little upside down on one of them, and he needs to sell it for whatever, and he kind of is familiar with price per square foot and value add and all the rest of it and what it takes to get a deal done. This is very, very different than that. And the thing is like in my broker role, I just took a listing out last week where I'd spent 4 months with the seller, and this was someone who was ready to go to market. Okay. In my broker role and in my off market, proprietary search, I will tell you that these things often take 6 to 24 months of discussions with sellers before they begin to understand really what drives value in small business. Like, how much can I really expect from this? Like, yes, now I'm actually prepared and I know what I'm going to do after and all the rest of it. There's a lot that goes into this. And so, with this crazy challenge of like, we're trying to do this in 90 days, I'm just telling you guys, you got to go to the brokers. Okay. Here's the other thing: the brokers not only have the sellers that are ready to sell mentally, that have already done the work, but usually there is a sim or some kind of business summary that will tell you about the business that will get you to be able to make decisions faster. And lastly, often, very often, there's a list price on the business. And what this will tell you for companies of this size, yeah, you can find businesses just listed for 6 million. Okay. What this means is that, you can look at that price and be like, okay, this person wants 6 million. They're telling me how much they want. They're ready to go. here's $6 million, and now you're under LOI very, very fast. Okay. By not negotiating and just giving them what they're asking for, as long as it's a fair valuation, that's going to be your key to speed. Okay. Next is going to be, frankly, guys, fifth is going to be mindset. Yeah, Walker mindset. No, I'm not kidding. This is actually going to be the most crucial component of everything else. Okay. Most buyers, especially first-time buyers, okay, they are looking for reasons to not do the deal. They're overanalyzing, they're trying to squeeze risk out of it. Look, if this is truly like we're trying to get this done in 90 days, what I want you to realize is like, look, just think to yourself, okay, this is a company that's been around for 20 years. It's got, $1.2 million in SDE. I'm going to be able to buy it for $6 million. And like, I'm going to be a little fast and loose and just take everything, at face value. And obviously there'll be time for due diligence and all the rest of it to make sure you're not making a mistake. But the concept here is that I need you mentally prepared to close and go. Okay. Not to sit around and waffle on whether you're buying this business or not. Waffle on whether you're going to buy this business or not. Okay. This is something where you need to close and you need to go. All right. And here's the last thing, be ready and be committed to working hard. Okay. This is not buy then chill. All right. This is buy then build. Okay. We're talking about SDE, owner operator. Okay. Don't try to, buy a business, put an operator in, and then go to the beach and chill out. Okay. So, this is how you do it. This is the playbook for acquisition entrepreneurship. There's a different way to do it, which is, going larger and bringing in a lot of private equity and, becoming an independent sponsor. I have a video on that. But trying to work in private equity and trying to get this ambitious goal of closing in 90 days done is a whole different uh, uh, bottle of can of worms, which we're not going to go into. Okay. So listen, if you are interested in buying a company in the next 90 days or 24 months, check out Acquisition Lab. It's everything I needed when I got started 20 years ago. Okay. We anchored in world-class education. We really have built out everything about this, private capital market and how to succeed in it. We focus on higher order thinking and applying, and, we've got case studies, all the rest of it too. A truly vetted community. Only about 30% of applicants are extended an invitation to enroll. Nothing against any of those other people. We're just looking for people that are ready. We help those other people with free resources and content, try to get them up to speed and ready to go. But it really elevates the community and the group. Okay, so much so that 35% of our community after 8 months is acquiring a business, and the members are buying 100 million in transactions every single year. We take no broker fees. We take no equity. We don't invest in the companies. We're truly aligned with the buyers and educating the buyers and getting them to the goal. Okay. It was all engineered on purpose. Third, we have all the tools, resources, broker lists, service providers, everything that you need to get that done. Same language, used in the community, same tools used in the community. And lastly, we have 6 group advisory calls a week. And then I run the search forum every other week where we go deep on your deal and other deals as live case studies as people are trying to buy businesses. Okay. So check out acquisitionlab.com and we'll see you on the inside.